Welcome back. You're watching Storyboard. Mitch Barnes CEO Nielsen tells his clients media fragmentation is your friend. He also feels that precision in advertising has never been better. Well, his opinions will definitely raise a few eyebrows. You must listen to this conversation that Storyboard editor Anant Rangaswamy had with Mitch. Let's take a look.
If you were talking to a room full of marketers and you were helping them navigate the fragmentation of media, what would you tell them? What are the 3-4 things they should do or worry about or look at?
We always think of fragmentation as your friend.
Right.
Sometimes people see it as a threat.
Right.
We say fragmentation is our friend. As a marketer, what fragmentation usually means is consumers are going to digital platforms to find the media that they enjoy. It gives them more choice, more control than they've ever had before. From a marketer's perspective, though, what it means is there's a chance for it to be a lot more personal. Personal in terms of the media consumption itself, but also personal in terms of the advertising delivery. On digital platforms, we have better identity information than we've ever had in the history of the world. And so the precision of advertising can be so much greater than it ever has been before. Higher precision leads to a higher ROI on advertising. And that's really what everybody's after. So it's to capture that higher ROI opportunity to get more for your money.
You know, you're focusing on fragmentation limited to the digital area as opposed to a country like India where we have 600 channels and a few hundred newspapers and digital. It's a far more complex market to navigate. So how would you help in an area like that? How would you suggest? What would you suggest in an area like that?
Well, there's still the opportunity for precision, but it won't be necessarily at the individual person level. In the case of fragmentation of even traditional media, it just gives us a chance to look at specific segments of the population. People who are drawn to very specific types of programs, that's a buying opportunity for an advertiser. Instead of just going for mass reach is important. You can go still for audience-based segments and still get some of the same kinds of precision that digital platforms offer.
Right.
Key to it is data, and that's what we do.
Now, that brings me to the other point. As we've seen more and more digital and more data coming their way, the marketers being forced to spend more and more time, on dashboards and understanding data. And, is all data to be seen and measured? Is all data to be actioned and acted upon? How does he deal with that?
Well, it needs to be connected, and it needs to be simplified and made useful. What we're seeing in terms of trends in the marketplace right now is a shift from marketers spending money on trying to answer, what should I do next year in my strategy?
Is anybody talking next year or next quarter? That's the problem.
Yeah, it's what should I do next week, or what should I do tomorrow?
Right.
And so this is the trend we see in terms of how people spend money on data and how they're wanting to act on data. The time frame has shortened dramatically. I think it's actually been a good thing. It's a little bit contrary to what some people's first impression would be. The shorter that time frame is, usually the more precise it gets and the more actionable it is.
Right. But the confusion comes from, you've got a, say, a Google universe, you've got a Facebook universe, and then you'll have some study from Nielsen and you'll have a Nielsen universe. So what is the universe that the marketer deals with, and how do you navigate this? Because you've got these funny, sometimes conflicting universes that he deals with.
Conflicting, I would describe them as overlapping. So the Google and the Nielsen universes overlap dramatically. Our universe of data overlaps dramatically with Facebook. What we bring to the party is the ability to see not just the Google platform or not just the Facebook platform. We see the whole marketplace, what the consumer is doing across all of these platforms, and we bring objectivity or independence to the view of the data, which is really important for the advertiser. So that's the role that we play. But I think it's true that no one party is going to have all the data that they really need. And these collaborative models where you're sharing data, sometimes even with your competitor, in order to have a better view and be able to do more than you would if you only relied on your own resources. It's true for Nielsen, it's true for Facebook, it's true for Google, it's true for everybody.
If you had to compare the amount of time a marketer of 20 years ago or a marketer today needs to spend on data and understanding data, what would put that comparison as?
Well, I was around 20 years ago.
Yes, so was I.
So I think I think it's gone up dramatically, but I also think the return on the time spent has gone up dramatically. The thing that probably has been compromised, though, is just the time people spend thinking, if I can say it that way. There's probably not enough time where people are stepping back from information and really just thinking in a pure way. There's a guy named Mark Lowry, who's the CEO of Walmart.com. He came into Walmart through the acquisition of Jet.com in the US, but they operate obviously across several markets. This is one thing I heard him say at our client conference back in June last month in the United States, is that the biggest opportunity for marketers right now is to pull back from all the data and spend time just thinking, being quiet and just thinking.
Okay. To sort of build on that question, does today's marketer need a different set of skill sets than the marketer of 20 years ago? Because 20 years ago, well, media was a very simple thing and didn't have the complex. One meeting with Nielsen, you were sorted.
Absolutely. I think one of the most important skill sets, or maybe you could just call it a understanding, is you got to understand technology. You don't have to necessarily be a technologist. You don't have to be able to write software code, but you need to know how to talk to an engineer, a technologist. You need to have empathy for the role that they can play in the marketplace and in your business, so that you know how to collaborate productively with them. And this is one of the big challenges a lot of companies have. So I think one of the biggest opportunities for leaders today is to not only be good at the marketing discipline, but to also know how to connect it to technology so they can take full advantage of it.
Moving away from fragmentation where we started to trends that you're seeing. You've got tons of data and from 84 countries, and it's coming at you at crazy speeds. So what are the 3 or 4 large broad trends you see? Of particular interest to us is what you see for India.
One trend we see here in India, which is also a trend we see in several other markets around the world, is consumers are spreading their choices over a wider range of products. It's purchasing fragmentation. We talked about media fragmentation. Sure. This is purchase fragmentation. And the brands in the marketplace that are benefiting the most from that are the smaller, more local, more specialty brands. So in essence, consumers are shifting some of their purchasing away from the big and global brands towards the smaller specialty, niche, and local brands. And so what you're seeing is the smaller brands, the smaller companies in the marketplace generally outperforming the bigger brands and the bigger companies. That's true here in India over the last couple of years. We've seen it to be true in several other markets around the world too. But it really starts with the consumer.
Right. So why do you think that is happening? Why do you think it didn't happen 7-8 years ago? And you're seeing it in Indonesia, you're seeing it here, I think markedly you're seeing it in countries such as these, but why do you think that's happening?
I don't know that I have the answer, but the theory that I've heard put forward the most, and I think it has a lot of merit to it, is it's some of the millennial mindset. In other words, this trend is most pronounced with the younger generations of consumers. The younger generations of consumers, often referred to as the millennials, they almost see their purchase behavior as expression of their own identity, and they're looking to sort of differentiate themselves against their peers. So they use this as a way to express their identity, and that means they don't want to be identified with the same mass brand, the same big brand as everybody else. They want something that's different. That causes their purchasing to fragment. It causes them to experiment with local and specialty products.
So tell me, so how does a Unilever deal with something like this? Because then they've got these enemies in markets across the world.
It's a huge challenge for a big company.
So
because
what would you do?
On the one hand, they're getting all of this pressure from zero-based budgeting, cost cutting. On the other hand, they know they have to go chase the consumer trend, which is to these local specialty products, which don't allow a big company to take advantage of its scale. So to chase the consumer drives up your cost. Meanwhile, your global headquarters is telling you to drive down your costs, and it is a very difficult problem to solve. But we see companies doing it, and sometimes they're doing it through acquisition. They're acquiring some of these local players, and they're letting them still operate semi-independently inside of the corporate structure. And also what they're doing is they're just being a lot more agile and nimble, introducing their own new innovations into the marketplace, but going after that specialty part of the market.
Right. Last trend that you can talk about, especially after you've been to India, you've had a couple of meetings, is there something that your clients wanted to know from you and you could share with them?
They always want to know what we're working on, what's in our development pipeline.
So what are you working on?
Yeah. Well, innovation is a big focus.
Right.
With the pace of change right now in the markets that we serve, which is mostly fast-moving consumer goods and media, the pace of change in both of those markets is unprecedented. In fact, it'll continue to accelerate. It'll never be this slow again, is
Right.
what some people often say. Well, if that's true, then the pace of our innovation has to be accelerating also. Otherwise,
Right.
we just simply fall behind. And so we're innovating by, first of all, M&A. We acquire small businesses, technology-enabled businesses to enhance our capabilities. Second, we're investing in an incubator. We have 19 technology-based startups in an incubator in Israel that are working on business problems for us all over the world.
Right.
And so that helps. We continue to invest in our own internal R&D, about $300 million a year. We invest in R&D, which is nearly 5% of our revenues. That's pretty high for a company like ours. So you put all those things together, and it drives this innovation that is our attempt to try to keep pace with the change
Sure.
in the markets that we serve.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And I hope you have a good visit to India. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all our content on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back same time next week. See you soon.